Hi and welcome back to Bill's Cichlid Room. Today I thought we'd do a video on how I actually built the fish room back in 2003. Before we get started, if I can just say a big thank you to everyone that subscribes to the channel. I've just gone over the 300 figure, so I'm really grateful to everyone who has subscribed. If you watch the videos and you get anything out of them, please do consider subscribing. It does help me out. It's 2003 and I'd started gathering tanks around the house. In fact, the spare back room had actually turned into a fish room. There was about 20 tanks in there. I even set up a saltwater tank to experiment with that because I was quite interested. And I had a 6.5 foot tank in the kitchen with all the Oscars. So the time had come to try and build a dedicated fish room. So the basement was the obvious place to build it. So what I decided to do was to clear out the basement of all the bits and bobs that I'd gathered over the years, and actually start afresh in there. So a couple of my friends helped me. A guy called Dominic that used to run Royal Discus, if anyone remembers that shop, and a close friend of mine called Keith Arkley. So we actually got together and decided to plan out the fish room. So what we decided to do was clear it all out, insulate the room, and take it from there. So these images are from when we were clearing it out. So what we did is we put plastic sheet up against the wall, battened it all out, put the wool insulation in between and boarded it up and brought the plastic up over the top. So if there was any drips or leaks or anything, at least the wood wouldn't get wet and start rotting. So as you can see, progress was quite slow, but we managed to build up the full room, board out the full room. The ceiling, we got rid of all the old plaster off the ceiling, and we actually used its 3-inch polystyrene that they use to insulate caravans. So we actually insulated the whole ceiling. As I've mentioned before, I'm lucky enough I've got a water supply that comes into the basement, and there's a drain. So as you can see, we started building the racks. I've treated all the wood at this stage. And then the tank started to arrive. So there was 18 18-inch tanks. There was 6 3-foot tanks and 12 4-foot tanks. So the first thing I decided to do was to paint all the backs of the tanks. And then we put them in situ, filled it up with water to make sure that the rack would take the weight, and started building the sump system. Because I actually run the fish room on two centralized systems, 2 sumps, and I heated the room. So this one, I've started soaking the bogwood, getting it ready, and this is the small rack that I built. So there was 18 tanks on here that I used for breeding projects. So these are the first fish that I put into the fish room. The Uaru Ferdinand Lizepi, there was a group of wild discus, a group of Severins that I had, and some Central American cichlids. So this one's quite good because it's the convict cichlids breeding and all the other fish stuck to the other end of the tank. So this is what the fish room looks like today. So I built it in 2003. It was running for about 7.5 years, and then I closed it down in 2010 for various reasons. One of them being the cost of actually running it, the electrical cost. So I set up the fish room again in July 2020, as if you've watched my previous videos you probably already know, and it's been running for 15 months now. So this is the fish room today. So as you can see, not much has changed really. I don't use the centralized system anymore. I'd use the like sponge filters in all the tanks, which is run off one air pump. And I don't space heat the room anymore. I actually use individual heaters in all the tanks. But that probably leads me on to me next project. Actually, I'm actually thinking about insulating all the tanks. So the tanks aren't heating the room. The heat actually stays in the tanks. So more on that over the next few months. So yeah, that's the part of the fish room that I actually have set up. This is the other part of the fish room that you never see on the videos. As you can see, everything's still in situ from when I originally built it. There's the sump system that I don't use anymore, and the other side of the racks. So I haven't needed to set them up, to be fair, and the cost of setting them up would be a bit prohibitive at the moment, so it's just all in situ. But you can see, like, the heat off the tanks is heating the room because it is quite warm down here. So yeah, thinking about insulating the tanks, and like take it from there really. So the total cost of building the fish room when I did it back in 2003, it was about £2,000. But £500 of that was actually spent on insulation because I was space heating the room. So if anyone is actually building a fish room, I'd spend as much money as possible on insulation. It's going to save you a fortune in the long run. I hope you enjoyed watching the video and got some tips out of how I built the fish room. It was a long time ago, 18 years ago, and although the fish room was closed down for about 9 or 10 years, like, I think the advice does still stand. So if you're thinking of building a fish room, best of luck. If you've already got one, you want to leave in the comments any tips or anything that I missed, please do, and I'll see you all on the next video.